Hello, my name is Samantha Williams, and this is a general overview of my final project for EMS 573 at NC State University. In this project, I focused on integrating two tech tools into a chemistry lesson, and I specifically chose two technology tools within the communication realm. My background is in teaching both high school chemistry and middle school science. I chose to work on a chemistry lesson since it's more likely that this age group will have more personal devices they can use in my classroom. I chose chemical bond types as my broad topic. The North Carolina state standard that correlates with this lesson includes Chem. 1.2, understanding that bonding that occurs in simple compounds in terms of bond type, strength, and properties. Other essential standards that fall under this category are comparing the relative strengths of different bond types, inferring the type of bond and chemical formula formed between atoms, and comparing the different properties of different bonds. Prior to this lesson, students have knowledge from previous classes on how ionic, covalent, and metallic bonds form and how to name them according to IUPAC rules. For the Engage section of my lesson, students work in pairs with a bag of Skittles to figure out what bond is formed between two random elements and create the Bohr model of the final bond. Students will then be asked how they would be able to figure this out if they didn't know the name of each element and if they were given an unknown substance. The Explore section has students work in their pairs to go through a lab procedure with 4 known chemicals to distinguish specific properties like appearance at room temperature, boiling point, solubility in water, conductivity. Students will be given a Nearpod code that will allow them to enter the results into the presentation. The Explain section uses the platform Nearpod to lead class discussion about their lab results. They will use Nearpod to communicate the results and collaborate on brainstorming properties for each type of bond along with the reasons for each. During the Elaborate section, students work in new pairs to figure out if an unknown substance is covalent or ionic based on the same properties tested earlier in class. And finally, at the end of the lesson, students will work in pairs to submit a verbal lab conclusion via the platform Flipgrid. Each student is required to watch and comment on at least one other classmate's post for homework. The teacher will show these clips in class the next day, along with any well-thought-out feedback received during the homework assignment. So here is my concept map with my material, my standard, and my misconception that if two substances share one characteristic property, they're the same substance. So to make sure that misconception does not get taught and it can be taught the correct way, I have my engaging activity, my brainstorming, collaboration, and evaluation reflection through Nearpod, Flipgrid, and my lab. Nearpod will be used in my lesson to engage students in active learning through automatic responses between the teacher and student. This gives the teacher an idea of how the students are doing through informal evaluations, and they receive instant feedback from their peers as well. The students have a more engaging way of presenting their data and generating discussion. And Nearpod is great for large classes of 30 plus, like I'm used to. Students, as well as large classroom atmospheres, because it allows individual students to participate on their own devices and not get lost in the crowd. Flipgrid is used in my class to also facilitate class discussion and engaging and positive communication. Flipgrid is different from Nearpod in the fact that it requires students to videotape their responses verbally, which helps students work on their public speaking skills through mini presentations. It can also help with the nerves by allowing multiple takes before the student actually sends it in. The video tool gives a more personal connection than another kind of written communication tool like Google Documents or forum posts. It's a great space for students to reflect on their lessons through lab conclusions, like in my lesson, journaling, and any other idea sharing. It's also a great tool for teachers to use as a communication and evaluation platform. So some things to keep in mind for the lesson to have the best outcomes. I need to make sure the students are capable and know about the technology tools I'm using. There needs to be introductory lessons for each of these tools before the lessons so that they know how to navigate the platforms. The students need to be aware of appropriate use of technology and how to answer questions on these types of public arenas. I also need to keep in mind the students I'm pairing up for each activity. As far as technology, I need to make sure the Wi-Fi in my classroom is reliable or else I need to go somewhere else. I need to make sure I have enough devices for each pair in terms of phones or Chromebooks. I also need to make sure that everything is good on my end with the subscription and whether I pay for it or the school does. As a teacher, I need to make sure I'm very knowledgeable on the content for any questions that may come up, and I need to make sure I have prior lesson material posted on my website for students to access while they're out or even after school for review. I also need to make sure that my lesson has smooth transitions that keep the students engaged so that misconceptions do not appear on my watch. I need to make sure my website is actually helpful and I'm available for questions other times in the class. So that's my lesson. I look forward to seeing you guys. And here are my references.